Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Saturday. It's Daryl here. It is bright and early, not even 4 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. I've been working on this video. I've been giving a lot of thought to this video. I wanted to think about it before I just jumped into a video. And I want to specifically, though, I want to reach out and just welcome my fellow Americans to this video. Now, I'm saying that seriously. I'm not trying to patriotic or whatever, but there's a reason I'm saying this. And to all the other viewers from across the world. All right, let me start off by saying today's a big day. It should be a very important day in American history. It is an important day in American history. The 20th anniversary of what happened in New York City 20 years ago. Currently, where I live now is about 90 miles away from Ground Zero. Where I used to live when it happened was about not even 70 miles. It was an hour's drive to Manhattan. Okay, before I talk about Donald Trump and me I'm already batting 1,000 on my predictions from the video before the one before last. I'm already batting 1,000 on 2 predictions. All right, before I get into that though, I'm going to talk about, there's going to be younger viewers that are going to watch this because of my references to boxing and MMA and all that. I've seen this before when I've talked about MMA before. So some of you guys might, I don't know, you might be kind of young, you don't remember a lot about what happened 20 years ago. Like I said, I was 35 years old. When I say that, I remember I got clean when I was 40, so I still remember what I was doing that day. I was taking painkillers at that time, pre-surgery. And I was on my way. I was driving. I was on my way to Rhode Island, Narragansett, Rhode Island, to surf. It was a beautiful, warm, in the 70s, a beautiful blue crisp day. A beautiful day, top 10 day of the year. And I was already about 10 or 15 miles into my 60-mile drive to Narragansett Bay in Rhode Island to surf. A lot of people surf. The best time to surf in this area is right now. We have hurricanes going up the East Coast constantly. Not all of them provide good surf, but some of them hit just right, so we get nice swells coming into Rhode Island and other beaches along the East Coast. And the water is the warmest. It's the warmest. You can surf here into October easily. In the spring and in the early summer, the water is just freaking cold in Rhode Island and the rest of New England. This time of year is the warmest. So anyway, on that day at 8:30, I was already on the road to go surfing, and I heard on the radio what happened, the first impact. And I couldn't believe it. Every time I say, I talk about crying. I have no problem with crying. I have no problem. I'm 6'3", 200 pounds, all muscle, man. I don't worry about what people say if I cry or not. And I started tearing up because when it happened, the first thing that came to mind is there's easily going to be over 10,000. We're going to lose over 10,000, thousands and thousands of people. Because people, if you lived in this area like me, I was down there. I've been to the World Trade Center. I've been to Manhattan more times than I can count. For those of you that haven't been to Manhattan, it's almost it's kind of crazy the first time you go there. It's almost like being in a box. A lot of these buildings are well over 60, 80 stories high, and you can't even see the top of them when you look up. And I remember standing against the World Trade Center because it was so tall. I don't know which tower it was. And I remember putting my back against it and looking up. I was probably about 12. It's probably about 12 years old. It must have just been completed. I think they just put it up. And then I remember turning around and putting my stomach against it, and I couldn't see the top. It was just amazing how tall this building was. And then you read the facts about how these buildings actually sway with the wind all the way up on the top and everything. And it's, if you've never been in New York City, it's scary. It's actually scary the first time you ever go there. Just the size and the amount of people is just, my adrenaline is on 10 the whole time I'm there. All right. So that day, I ended up turning around. Because as soon as that happened, or when the second impact happened, they talked about closing highways and stopping all the aircraft in the United States and closing the highways in Connecticut. I was on 95, I believe, at that time. So I hurried up and turned around and headed back home. This was probably about 10 a.m. that day. Yeah, it was, there wasn't one person that day that didn't have this on their mind. Now, this is what I want to talk about, and it relates to Donald Trump and his boxing and his comments. All right. That day, anybody that was, older, that remembers clearly that day, remembers how people were after that day, the next day, the next week, the next month, but especially the following days after that. People were different in America. We came together. I swear to God, when you walk down the street, when you were in a store and you see a stranger coming towards you, your eyes would make contact, and it would just be the solemn look, like, and every person you walk by, so every single stranger you walk by for days, you would make that eye contact, and you'd just be like, it'd be that, to those of you that didn't go through it, maybe it sounds silly or corny, but anybody that was, let's say over 16, 17, 18, over that age, on that day will remember this. I remember driving on the roads, and it was a whole different story. People would let each other out. There was no cutting in front of each other, no flipping each other off, honking. It was just go ahead, and waving. And it sounds corny. It sounds hard to believe. It sounds like I'm making this up, but it's true. Opening doors for each other, the kindness, it was America coming together. I know it sounds corny. It sounds like, for anybody that wasn't old enough, it sounds unbelievable. But across the entire country, and people talked about this. At first, people thought it was just, them or their particular town or state, but it was the entire country. Every person you made eye contact with felt it, felt the gut punch, felt the loss, and then a sense of, I guess, retribution, and all the other uglier feelings came later. The blame, the hate, the anger kind of came later when our Republican president attacked Iraq, a country that had absolutely nothing to do with what happened. Nothing to do. Instead of the people that did, things got weird after that day. And then we all found out they all came from Saudi Arabia. We all know how Donald Trump was tight with Saudi Arabia. Every one of them came from Saudi Arabia. To this day, every president still tight with Saudi Arabia. It's amazing how oil is like blood, man. We've never even said boo, I think, to the Saudi Arabians for any of this. Anyway, we all came together. And anybody that was old enough to remember on that day will agree with me on this. Okay, fast forward to this week, Donald Trump. I have the links down below. I didn't know that this was recorded. At first I heard the recordings of Donald Trump being asked this question. Hey, if you could box anybody on this day, who would it be? Come on, it's a loaded question. We all know what he's going to say. People want to hear Hillary Clinton. I predicted this in the video. All right. I didn't know that the boxers, I'll have the link down below. This was from, I can't remember the service that begins with a T, Trigger or Triffer, or I can't remember what it is. But it was from where the boxers were on stage, and they called the president from there. So he was live in front of Evander Holyfield and everybody when they asked him this question. So who would you box? And Trump, being the typical wuss that he is, said he wouldn't box any professionals. I tell you what, man, I'd box Tyson. I would be honored to get my butt knocked down by Tyson, man. You got to lose to know how to win. I've said that over and over on this station. But hey, anyway, I'm getting off subject. So Donald Trump, inevitably, he says it would be Joe Biden. And you hear the crowd instantly just roar, yeah! because this is exactly, is this a big surprise? No. I predict, like I said, you go back and watch the video before this. I said we're going to see this all night tonight. So tonight, on the anniversary of what happened 20 years ago, when all Americans came together on that day with this bond, this hurt, on this anniversary, the person that was supposed to lead this country, the former president, talks about physically injuring another president, another American. And the people that cheer him on think that this is some kind of tough American attitude. Yeah, this is what we need. Trump, this is all calculated by Trump, and people just buy into this raw hatred and emotion. People that think back to that day and how you felt about your fellow Americans, how it brought us all together, far right, far left, everybody joined together. There was no hatred, no division that day. Everybody, Democrats, Republicans, we all felt that pain on that day. And so on this day, Trump could do 100 things that would show him to be a better man and a better leader, that actually might make me consider voting for him. If he did something that would pay tribute to this, something that would honor this feeling that we had on that day, something of importance. But no, he's just going to feed into the hate and the anger and the violence. And his supporters love it and buy into it and pay and shell out $50 just like they did for their Liberty phones on this fight. Okay, and the second thing I got right, Donald Trump Jr., I got the link below. In one of his rambling, ranting, nonsense videos, asked his viewers, what question should I ask my father? Like, should I ask him if aliens landed? What would he talk about? Seriously, links down below. Read it yourselves. Like I said, Trump, arrogant narcissist. What you're going to see from Junior tonight is him being the subservient beta male. Yes, Daddy. Yes, Daddy. What would you do? What would you do when this happened, Daddy? Oh, yes, you're right, Daddy. And then, and rallying up the troops to support, the other peasants to support his arrogant narcissist father. So I'm already 2 for 2, man, on my predictions. The links are down below. I'll be back later, and I'll definitely be back tomorrow after this whole travesty unfurls tonight on TV. All right, you guys have a great Saturday. I'll see you soon.